These days of Muharrum are, as you well know from your experience, days of great sadness, days of an increasing and intensifying emotion as they pass and as the great tragedy of Ashura grows ever closer. So it might be a good idea for us in these days, in the midst of our mourning, in the midst of all the rituals which we employ to express what our words cannot express, in remembrance of Al-Hussein and his companion martyrs, it might be a good idea in these days to relook for a moment at some of the personalities of the Ahl Bayt, some of the virtues that they offer us, because surely this is an important element, not just that we mourn and that we grieve, but that we take on into our lives the virtues that the Ahl Bayt offer to us as exemplars and as models, that we try to reshape and refashion our lives according to these virtues. Each member of the Ahl Bayt is remembered in a particular way for his or her own special virtue. Al-Hussein, known for his fierce determination that justice should be done and that right should prevail, that wickedness, that an evil model of society should never be permitted. Abbas, remembered for his heroic fortitude in neglecting and ignoring his own needs and his own rights in order to see that the needs and the rights of others were looked after. Salama, who kept vigil in all those years until the day that Al-Hussein died. Lady Zaynab, of course, who in her courage and fortitude went onto the battlefield to challenge those who were killing her brother. So in a few talks, let's try to reflect on some of these. Lady Zaynab, of course, is an extraordinary personality. We should never separate her womanhood, her motherhood, her being a wife and a sister, nor should we ever separate her psychological state from her holiness and her membership of a chosen family. There's an extraordinary transformation in the character of Lady Zaynab as they journey towards Karbala and towards the fate that awaits them there. She feels great fear and anxiety. She hears voices on the air lamenting the coming deaths. She breaks down more than once when she hears her brother Al-Hussein relate dreams that he's had of his own grandfather and of his own mother and father, telling him that soon he would be with them. But on the day of the battle, Lady Zaynab is a transformed woman. She emerges from her tent, the texts say, like the sun rising in the morning. She emerges to grieve the death of her nephew Ali al-Akbar, the first of Al-Hussein's sons to be killed, putting herself in great mortal danger on the battlefield. She emerges a second time from her tent to try to prevent a younger nephew from fighting, but he will not be prevented and is determined to die next to his uncle Al-Hussein. And she emerges most of all at the end of the battle, at the very instant that Al-Hussein is being murdered, to challenge the integrity of the Islamic faith of those who are killing the grandson of the Prophet of Islam. She then becomes a matriarch, having witnessed all this trauma, and we should never ever underestimate the trauma that was experienced by the survivors of the Ahl Bayt, the survivors of Karbala. Having been through all of this horror of seeing each of her loved ones killed, she becomes a matriarch, guiding the Ahl Bayt, the survivors, the women and children, on that terrible journey from Karbala to Kufa, where in the streets she challenges once again the integrity of a city that has abandoned her brother and has not kept its word. And then finally, in the court of the most powerful man in the land, Yazid. And there in Yazid's court, she demolishes his leadership, demolishes his authenticity as an Islamic leader, demolishes his power, and the truth of Karbala prevails. Let Lady Zaynab make intercession for us in these days. Pray us into a deeper form of courage, a willingness to stand up for justice, even tiny moments of justice and righteousness in our own daily lives, in our own families, where we could so easily let injustice prevail. Let her example and her modelship as a member of the Ahl Bayt, be our inspiration in these days.